Good morning, friend. Welcome back to my kitchen. If you're new, my name is Becky. It is still technically morning. It is 11:12. I'm gonna get 2 of my ovens preheated. We have a huge cooking day today. We had a really slow family morning. We just hung out as a family. My son helped me pick these blackberries. Tomorrow I am throwing a tomato-themed dinner party. And I think all the produce is either coming out of my garden or I went to the farmer's market yesterday and I bought a bunch of beautiful produce. So I was able to pick these wild blackberries that just grow around the outside of our property. We have been eating on blackberries for about 2 weeks now, but this is the first time we've picked enough to actually bring inside. First thing I want to do is get these washed up. Trying to be gentle with them. We're going to let those air dry. We're making 2 desserts. We've got a blackberry cheesecake and a s'mores cake. Now, I realized this morning when I was going through all my recipes that I am missing 3 ingredients. So my family is off to the grocery store for me to pick up the cocoa powder we need for the s'mores cake. There is only going to be 6 people plus my son at this dinner party, so we don't need 2 desserts, but I couldn't decide between a s'mores cake when I saw it pop up on my Instagram. I thought, we've got to make that. And then the blackberries are so beautiful right now. I thought we've got to make something with blackberries. So we're going to do 2 desserts, and the whole rest of the main meal is going to be themed around these absolutely incredibly beautiful tomatoes. Now, 99% of these tomatoes are from my garden. A couple of them, these cute little shaped ones, I got these at the farmer's market because we're going to decorate the table with the tomatoes. And then these really, really beautiful black and red ones I got from the farmer's market because I wanted a couple varieties that look a little bit different than the ones I grew for the table decor. These ones I got from the farmer's market, and these ones right here I got from the farmer's market. I want to set the table using tomatoes as the decor, plus we're going to use a lot of those tomatoes in the recipes. What inspired this whole dinner were these tomato candles that I saw pop up on my Instagram. And I just thought, you know what, let's do a tomato themed dinner party when the tomatoes are beautifully ripe out of the garden. I also picked up some sunflowers. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna set the table yet. This is just, I'm starting to stage some of the items I need for the table. What we need to do today is start cooking. I have to be out of here by 3 o'clock today. And I've got a huge list in the kitchen, day 1 meal prep. This is all the stuff I would like to get done today. If I can, I will see if we are gonna get it done. This is our menu. We're gonna do confit tomatoes with whipped feta and ricotta. We're gonna serve that with a tomato and garlic. I forgot to add garlic in here. Focaccia bread, and we're also gonna do a charcuterie board. I normally try to have everything cooked and ready to go basically while my guests are either sitting outside, or I like to have everything prepped a lot before they actually get here, which we are gonna do that today. But I'm gonna do something a little bit more different. We are actually gonna have fried chicken cutlets with a beautiful salad on the top. And I think I'm gonna be frying those chicken cutlets when my guests are here. So I don't always do appetizers, but I'm gonna have 2 appetizers because I want them to be able to sit around the island and watch me fry up the chicken cutlets, and I'm gonna plate everything in front of them. So I want them to have stuff to nibble on while I'm throwing or pulling this dinner together. That's my thought, something totally different than what I normally do. We are also gonna have an absolutely beautiful lettuce salad, and we're gonna make a tomato vinaigrette using some of our confit tomatoes. At the farmer's market, there was some beautiful fruit from my local farmer's market. So we're gonna use some of those blackberries. I probably have to pick more today. These peaches from a local farmer. Oh, that one's bruised. I'll just cut that part off. And then this cantaloupe. And we're gonna make a beautiful plated fruit salad with a honey lemon dressing to go on the top. We're also gonna have a panzanella salad. At the farmer's market yesterday, I bought a beautiful sourdough loaf from a local baker. I also bought the lettuce and the arugula from a local farmer, the one who grew that cantaloupe. They're the farmer that actually has helped me a lot in my own garden. I go and I talk to them about garden things, and Their produce is beautiful. I'm kind of between lettuce successions right now. We've eaten so much lettuce, and then I have lettuce plants out there that are like this big. So I had to pick some lettuce up. I've never made a panzanella salad before. I'm excited about it. Basically, it's a bread and tomato salad. And then we're gonna make more focaccia that we're gonna eat with dinner, not just with the appetizer. So that is a big menu. Oh, I didn't even put on here. We're missing, I'm gonna make a tomato galette. So it's a lot, and it's gonna be so fun. I'm in comfy clothes. I've got sweats on. I went to put my jeans on this morning and they were wet. Darn it. I like to air dry my jeans. I washed all of my jeans yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, and I hung them up and they were still damp and I didn't want to put them in the dryer, so I figured we're gonna be in the kitchen all day together, or at least for quite a few hours up until 3 o'clock. So might as well be comfortable while we do it. Now I just realized I forgot to put my tomato pie on here. I have in my list of things I want to do that we're going to make all the components for that, but we're going to assemble and bake that tomorrow. So the first thing I want to get going on is actually the cheesecake. I was going to start with the s'mores cake because that is probably one of the more complicated things we have to do today, but I don't have enough cocoa powder. So we're going to start with what I have enough ingredients for. This cheesecake looks so easy. I'm really excited to see how it turns out. The first thing for the cheesecake, we're gonna make the crust, so I'm gonna go melt this butter. To that, we're gonna add some salt, 3 tablespoons of sugar. I will link the recipes that I can down in the description box. Some of them I'm gonna be making up as we go. Some of them are recipes that are tried and true that I've made before, and some of them are completely new recipes to me. So we need 1 1/4 cup of graham cracker crumbs. And I went with the already pre-crushed graham cracker crumbs just for pure, easy convenience. I love making a cheesecake for a party because I think they taste better if you make them a day or two before, which just makes the day of the party that much easier. And I'm gonna line my springform pan with a piece of parchment paper. I've never done that before. I usually just serve my cheesecake on the metal piece on the bottom, but I kind of want to see if I can remove that. Normally I just leave it on there, but this time we're gonna try something different. One of the reasons, well, let me get this sprayed on real quick first. I'm really excited about this s'mores cake is we are going to actually make a marshmallow frosting, and then we're gonna torch it. We're not gonna make the frosting until tomorrow, but I'm really looking forward to that. This is now ready. I think while my oven's preheating, I wanna get my water for my bain-marie going in the oven. So I'm gonna fill up my roaster pan here with water, and I'm gonna get my cheesecake springform pan into my mold. This is a silicone mold. I've had water get into my springform pans way too many times when making cheesecakes with the foil method. So I finally invested in this thing and I love it. I got it on Amazon. I can link it for you down below. Another reason I love a cheesecake is because you can change the flavors really easily and turn it into something that fits the theme or the season of the party, just based on what flavoring ingredients you do, just like a cake, I guess. Now this recipe does not call to bake the graham cracker crust, which is one reason why it's super easy. It also doesn't call to cook the next part of the recipe, which makes it super easy because you're skipping a step, which is actually making the blackberry portion of this dessert. So let me grab my food processor out. And you know what? I need to make pie crust for the galette. And I don't care if a little buttered flour or sugar gets into my blackberry mixture, but I don't want blackberry in my pie crust. So I'm gonna change focus here real quick on my list of things I need to do is make a pie crust. So I'm gonna do that real quick. My recipe for this galette is going to be an adapted version of my tomato pie recipe. I don't think I have enough butter out. I don't, gotta go to my freezer. I was looking online for some tomato galettes, and there was a lot of ones that looked really good if you like goat cheese. I particularly am not a fan of goat cheese. I wish I was. And so I thought, I've got a delicious pie, tomato pie, that I think I can just kind of adapt and turn it into a galette. So that's what we're gonna do. I guess I could make it into a pie, but a galette just feels more like, I need to get a cutting board out because I gotta chop this butter up. A galette just feels like more of a side dish, something that you can take a smaller piece of, because there is so many different components to this dinner. A piece of pie is a lot more of an investment than just a small piece of galette. Okay, so let me show you something super interesting. I have two different butters here that I pulled out of my freezer. This one is a grass-fed butter. This one is just a regular butter from the grocery store. Look at the difference in color there. I also was thinking about making personal size tomato galettes for everybody, but I thought that would be too much of an investment. People can then choose what size piece they want versus me serving an entire mini galette to each person. Josh was calling because they did not have burrata. That was one thing I forgot to get at the grocery store yesterday. But since I have to go into town later today, I can just pick that up when I'm in town later. Ooh, there's some pretty big chunks of butter in here. Really big. Let me just throw these back in the food processor real quick here. I was also trying to go off memory with this recipe, and I am half a cup too short. I just checked my recipe just to make sure that I did not miss a step or forget an ingredient. So I'm glad I caught that. So I just looked at it, and I would have been a half a cup too short of flour. It just means it would have been a very, very buttery, delicious pie crust. Add a little more water. Into the fridge they go. And this is how I cook. If you're new to my kitchen, welcome. Is I bounce around a lot, and I try to think how to be efficient with my time, my dishes, and things like that. So I can go ahead and mark off pie crust on day one prep because we just got that done. So now, you know what I think I want to do next? Because I have an oven that's preheated that's not working for me. Let's go ahead and get the tomato confit going. because we need that for quite a few recipes and that won't take me very much time. I want to confit the cherry tomatoes. So I'm gonna come over here. We gotta wash them. And if I need more tomatoes, I have a lot more tomatoes out in my garden. I'm gonna do all different kinds of cherry tomatoes. I wanna make sure I get red ones and orange ones and large ones and small ones. We need this for our appetizer, we need it for our focaccia, and we need it for our salad dressing. We haven't decided if we're going to eat inside or outside, so at some point, probably all those tomatoes need to end up in the freezer. Well, I thought that was going to be big enough, but that's not big enough. I don't know if that baking dish and this one are the same volume. That works. I went ahead and I decided just to go ahead and confit all of my tomatoes, cherry tomatoes that I had picked, because what we don't end up eating for this dinner party, I can eat for other things. So this is a really good olive oil. We're gonna eat this olive oil over time, so you wanna make sure you use one that you like the flavor of. Not going to check that off the list till it's done, but another thing on its way, which we'll need that for a bunch of other components. So now we can weigh out how much of our blackberries we need. I don't want to crush too many of them. That's why I figured weighing them would be good, because the recipe says in weights. Frozen blackberries, I'm sure, would be perfect. Okay, that gives us plenty for decoration. If they get crushed when I add this blade, that's fine. Now, most recipes for cheesecake, when you make a berry filling, actually call to cook this and add a thickener. This one doesn't. That's why this recipe seems so easy. You don't have to cook the pie crust. You don't have to cook the berry mixture. And we will cook it all together. So now I'm going to sift out all of the goodness and leave the seeds behind. If a few seeds get in there, that's fine, but blackberries are just so seedy that I want to make sure we get most of it out. My dogs are asking to come back in, and then in about 5 minutes, they'll ask to go back out. These seeds won't go to waste. My chickens will go crazy for them. Now, the only thing we have to add to this right here is some sugar. We don't have to cook it. We don't have to add a thickener. Now this component is done. Super, super easy. So let's make the cheesecake filling portion now, which is going to come together really fast. We're just going to use the same bowl that I made the crust in. If a little bit of graham cracker crust ends up in the cheesecake, that's going to be fine. This is room temperature cream cheese, sugar, and I'm going to use vanilla bean paste for this instead of vanilla extract because I like the look of the beans. Whoa! That's going to be delicious. That's probably a tablespoon there. And then I'm going to use my handheld mixer, which you all told me to get this, and I use it more than I use my stand mixer now. Oh, that already smells good. Cream cheese and vanilla, yum. Oh, shoot. Well, that's the first time this battery-powered hand mixer has died on me. So let me go get it plugged in. I guess that is the downside to having a battery-powered mixer. I think I can do the rest of it by hand though, because I do not feel like pulling out my stand mixer at this point. Hey Siri, call Josh. I'm gonna need Josh to get me the right charger for this. Okay, we got that charging again, or I guess for the first time. I don't think I've charged it. I think Josh charged it once for me. Let me let my dog in again. I think Josh charged it for me once, but that's the first time I've ever plugged it in. It actually is the same charger as my cell phone, so that makes it easy. It did come with a charger, but I just plugged it into my cell phone charger. And then we do need to add a little bit of salt to this. And this is basically the cheesecake mixture. We could add, if we wanted to, lemon zest, but I don't really want to. And we could have added cinnamon to the berry mixture. It said it was optional, but I really just want this to have a vanilla and blackberry flavor. So I'm skipping the cinnamon and I am skipping the lemon. I think I'm gonna have to get my whisk out. So I don't want there to be lumps. I'm really glad I let that cream cheese come to room temperature. I let it sit out overnight. Yeah, I'll be able to get this nice and smooth with a whisk. It's just gonna take me a little bit and I'm gonna get an arm workout of it. I'm gonna let the battery charge a little bit before we make the cake batter, because we can do other things while the cake is, or the battery's charging. The cake won't take very long to cook. And we're not assembling the cake until tomorrow, so I can have that done a little bit later. We're doing great on time. My dog is under my feet, hoping I drop something, which I'm sure I will. Josh just showed up with the ingredients I needed, which is cocoa powder, shallots, more graham cracker crumbs, and some cheese. And he also surprised me with an iced tea, which is my favorite. I washed up all of these dishes because I thought it was gonna be a few minutes before, well, I guess it doesn't matter, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and make up these cakes, or maybe one thing that I could just get done and out of the way will be to, let's see, I kind of want to use some of that tomato oil from the confit tomatoes to make our sourdough croutons that are going to go in our panzanella salad. If you've never had a panzanella salad, basically it's a crouton tomato basil salad with, I want to put burrata cheese in it. The recipe that I'm being inspired by calls for mozzarella balls, but I think burrata, as it kind of gets creamy and mixes with the salad dressing would be delicious. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna have to buy that today. So I'm just talking myself through how I wanna do this. I think, let's go ahead and make the cake. I need hot coffee, which I have, I think, just enough coffee in my coffee pot from this morning to make up this cake. And this recipe for this cake calls for 9-inch cake pans. I have found that I like a taller cake. I just think it's prettier. So I'm gonna use my 8-inch cake rounds, and I just know that I'm gonna have to bake it a little longer. And the reason I decided to make this dessert and the blackberry one is this is probably the last summer dinner we're gonna have. And s'mores, to me, is a summertime dessert. Even though it would be delicious any time of year, I thought that it would go well with today's dinner or tomorrow's dinner. And then I want to take advantage of those blackberries. And everyone will go home with some cake and cheesecake. Okay, I should have done that over my sink. Oh well. Now, of course, this recipe says we need to get out a bunch of different bowls for the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. I'm going to do it all in one bowl, but the first thing I need to do is melt my butter. Vanilla. I have a recipe to make vanilla bean paste at home, so we're going to do that together this winter, or maybe fall. Sugar. And I'm going to mix this together using a whisk. Now I'm going to add my all-purpose flour, my cocoa powder. It probably would be good to sift this, but my sieve has, that was 2, 3, I need 5 of these. 4. Oh gosh. I gotta go back and count how many that was. I need 5 total. That was 5. 1, 2, 3. But my sieve is full of blackberry seeds, and there's no way I'm getting that clean, so we're just gonna have to go with it. Hopefully I have enough of this. 1, no, shoot. 2, I gotta go get more baking soda downstairs. 3, salt. I'm gonna read through my ingredients as I mix this. Butter, sugar, flour, cocoa powder, baking soda, salt, sour cream, oil. I forgot the oil. Then we're gonna add coffee once I get this mixed together. That was exactly the amount of coffee I needed. Crazy. Looking at this amount of batter, I thought, you know what? That is not going to fit into 8x8s. So I pulled out my 9x9s. I guess they're not 9x9s, but my 9-inch cake pans. I just got all those cake dishes in the dishwasher. There's one more component for the s'mores cake we can make today. It is the graham cracker portion of the s'mores cake, but my confit tomatoes are almost done. So I think I want to keep my oven in use. I'm trying to clean up as I go just so that I can think better. I tend to make less mistakes when my kitchen is clean. And then I don't have as big of a mess to clean up when I'm all done. But I need that oil for the confit tomatoes, or for the panzanella salad. Let me wash my hands, and we're gonna get those confit tomatoes out, and then we will toast up our bread in that oil. My dogs are put away at the moment because I don't want them underfoot when I'm taking this out of the oven. Oh my goodness. Yum. I wish you could smell it in here, that oil, tomato bubbling with that garlic. Oh my goodness. You know, I just realized I'm probably not saying panzanella salad correctly, but it sounds delicious regardless of how I pronounce it. I don't think I've ever eaten one. I think I've just seen them be made on things like the Food Network growing up and thought, oh, that looks good. I don't think I've ever actually had one. This is some beautiful sourdough loaf. Wheat flour, water, starter, which is wheat yeast, or wheat, flour, water, salt. Contains wheat. This is a local sourdough baker. I have made a few loaves of sourdough, but they certainly do not look like that. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. I might save a slice out for myself to make a tomato sandwich for lunch. Looking for a knife. It's too early in the day to be not sure where my knives are kept. It is now almost 1 o'clock. We'll just spend time in the kitchen until I either get too tired and I need to take a break, or I have to leave for my appointment. Okay, 1 loaf. You know what I'm gonna do? Look at that. That is too hot to eat, so I'm gonna set it there for a second while I get out my baking sheet. Now I am proud of myself. I do have 2 timers set. One for my cheesecake and one for my chocolate cakes. Now, I bought this at the farmer's market yesterday, and I follow this baker on Instagram, and I know she baked these loaves basically the day before, and it's still really, really soft. I'm gonna have another piece of that. Wow. So we're gonna use these tomatoes to make a vinaigrette for this salad, but might as well use some of this oil to toast this bread up. So we just have layer upon layer of tomato. And then I am gonna season this bread up even more. Black pepper. I just remembered last time I tried to make croutons the day before, they were not a good texture the next day. I did ask ChatGPT if I can do this. ChatGPT said I can, so I'm hoping it turns out fine. I bought some crostini. Ooh, I have to watch what I'm doing. I bought some crostinis from one of my local grocery stores, and those croutons are delicious the next day. So I think I just need to keep an eye on this and make sure that they are nice and crunchy all the way through, so that I want them crouton texture, I think. Let me reread this recipe. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, right here. 400 combined bread, oil, salt. Spread breadcrumbs, bake for 10 minutes or until golden brown. Edges should get crispy while the bread gains some color and crisp, but remains still chewy on the inside. Okay, I can do that. The next thing we're gonna make, since I have my tomatoes out right here, is going to be our salad dressing for the panzanella salad and for the green salad we're gonna have. So I have one shallot here, and this is gonna be a pretty simple dressing. I didn't find one online that I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So we're gonna kind of make this up. So I have one shallot. I'm gonna make this in the blender so I don't have to chop that shallot up super fine. I'm gonna take, let's see, some of our tomatoes and our garlic. Ooh, this is making a mess. You know what I should do? Like this. So most of our oil is going to be coming from this roasted tomato oil. But I have some basil oil that I'm also going to add into this. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go run outside and grab some basil. I just checked on my chocolate cakes and they're not done. And I just had the thought, I'm getting Parmesan cheese out, should not have cooked the cakes with the bain-marie because there's obviously way more steam and humidity in that oven than there normally would be when you bake a cake. But it's too late now, and I'm sure it's gonna be okay. So I want to grate in quite a good amount of parm into this. I'm gonna add 1, 2, 3 splashes of red wine vinegar, good amount of black pepper, pinch of salt, and just a little bit of honey. And I do need to put this honey in a squeeze bottle. This is from our own bees. One of you all gave me that suggestion, and I thought, brilliant. I just have to get one. Now this would make probably a delicious marinade as well. Oh my goodness. Wow. Now is that going to be enough? That's my only question. Let's make a little bit more. That alone on chicken would be incredible. So I'm gonna make some more here. That is probably one of the best things I've ever made. Hands down. Before I can grab a container to put that in, my cakes are done, so I'm gonna get these out of the oven. I just stole one of the pieces of bread from the oven. That's gonna have to cool. That's gonna be a delicious bite right there. Oh wow. I made a lot of that. I made about a quart. That's okay. Wow. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Let's see. I need to clean up, but I need to make let me cross some things off before I clean up. Bake cakes, I can cross that off the list. make cheesecake. I'm gonna cross that off the list even though it's in the oven. I just have to make sure I don't burn it. Confit tomatoes is done. Breadcrumbs are in the oven. I have to make sure I don't burn those either. Make tomato vinaigrette. Wow, we are crossing so many things off the list. I felt like I had a lot more to do, but we're making great progress. Now what I'm not sure I'm gonna do is I need to whip the feta. Can I whip feta and ricotta cheese in here? I think I probably can. My food processor is what I was planning to do it in, and it has a ton of blackberries in it. I don't wanna waste this. I'm gonna get all this out, and then we're gonna make our whipped feta next. This whipped feta is going to be the base for one of our appetizers. I'm gonna have a big platter and I'm gonna spread this whipped feta on the bottom. We're gonna put our confit tomatoes on the top, and then I'll have crostinis for dipping. Oh, that's my cheesecake. That has way too much, ooh, it's boiling. Let's see. Way too much jiggle to it, so that's not done. I did take these croutons out of the oven. They're not done, they're about half done. I'm gonna let these cool completely, then I'm gonna wrap them up, and I will do a second bake on them tomorrow so that they have a good crisp to them. I probably should have just cubed these, covered them, and toasted them tomorrow. But if these end up getting a weird texture right now, they're like delicious. If they end up being a weird texture for my guests, I'm gonna shut this door. I will just buy another loaf of sourdough, but I think that if we par bake them, let them cool, cover them tightly, and then toast them again, we'll be okay. And what I'm gonna do for these tomorrow, I'm gonna let them cool completely today. They're still pretty warm. Cover them, I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, and then obviously this is a really quality olive oil, so it'll harden in the refrigerator. So what I will do to get it nice and soft again is I will just put it in the oven and just warm it up enough to where everything melts. I don't wanna cook those tomatoes anymore, but I want them to be soft. Okay, so here is a big block of feta cheese. This is a new brand I've never bought before. I'm gonna crumble it up a little bit. And this is 8 ounces. I'm gonna go wash my hands again. And then I'm gonna put equal parts a nice yummy ricotta, and we're gonna blend those together. I love feta, but I think feta can be pretty strong on its own. And so what I really like to do is cut it with some ricotta. It's gonna add some more creaminess. And this is a 16 ounce, so I'm gonna put half of this in here. I wanna season this up. A little bit of salt, not too much, because that feta is pretty salty. Some pepper. Probably should have used white pepper if I had it, just so that it stayed white, but that's okay. I'm gonna put probably 1.5 tablespoons of honey in there. And I'm making this recipe up. I have one that I'm being inspired by, but I'm definitely not following it. I think what I'm gonna add is a little bit of that olive oil from our confit tomatoes. This also has some tomato juice in it as well. I'm gonna give this a taste. I just tasted this ricotta all by itself. This stuff is delicious. I think it's the first time I've ever bought this brand before. It's almost sweet. I'm gonna add a little bit more of that because I kind of want a little bit more sweetness to this. I guess I'm adding this whole thing. So this is gonna be way more than we can eat for one appetizer, but I can definitely find something else to use this on. This on a tomato sandwich with some bacon. Yum. Oh wow, that's so light and fluffy now. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna add this to the serving dish we're gonna serve this in tomorrow. I'm not gonna put the tomatoes on the top until tomorrow because I'm gonna have to warm them up. But this is basically gonna be a dip for crostinis. I had an idea. I'm gonna take a taste like this is going to be tomorrow. It's gonna be pretty similar to this. I put the extra back in this container because I don't think we're gonna go through all that. I'm gonna put a dollop of our dip and I'm gonna grab one of these tomatoes. I'm gonna make the perfect bite. Perfection. I have technically 2 projects left to do, big projects, I should say. There's always a million projects to do every day. I don't have to do laundry though. Yesterday I did, I think 10 loads of laundry and I made 2 slow cooker dinners. So I don't have to worry about dinner tonight. I don't have to worry about lunch. Well, I do need to worry about lunch because what I'm trying to say is I've got 2 big projects I want to get to today still. But I know I can tell my energy levels is getting a little bit low. So I need to take a break and eat lunch. And I think my family's ready to eat lunch too. So we'll just take a break. We're gonna eat lunch together. I'm gonna tidy up a little bit and then we're going to prep the chicken for, I gotta rinse this one out because this one has a lot of cheese in it. Frying the chicken cutlets. I did a lot of reading and a lot of what I read said you can prep chicken cutlets the day before and they can sit in the fridge. Even the breadcrumbs will be fine. It's actually better if you bread them and let them sit for at least 30 minutes. And you can definitely do it the day before. I don't really want to be breading chicken cutlets the day that I have people over if I can help it. So we're gonna get going on that in just a little bit, but I do want to get this kitchen clean. I need to grate a copious amount of Parmesan cheese. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my dishwasher started so that I can unload it before we get going on the chicken. And then the other big project I have on my list to do today is set the table. But I don't think I'm gonna set the table yet. What I'll probably do tonight after I get back is I will figure out all of the table decor items I wanna use. And then I just need to decide tomorrow, oh, we still have the breadcrumbs we need to make, or the, not breadcrumbs, the graham cracker crumbs. Let's cross a couple more things off our list. Let's see. Tomato vinaigrette's done. Oh, we need to make the focaccia, but that's gonna be easy. Oh, and I also put on here, make the charcuterie board. What I need to do now is I'm gonna sit and eat lunch, okay? I'm not even gonna clean the counter. I can tell it's time for lunch. And drink some more of my iced tea. I just got some really fun packaging, or packages in the mail that Josh is gonna help me bring in for the table. Wasn't sure if it was gonna come in time. Beautiful. Feel much better after eating and hydrating. And I almost forgot because I didn't write it on here. I don't think I have my fruit salad dressing that needs to be made. So that's gonna come together real quick. So we're gonna get that made up right now. And I think before we head out, or before I head out, I am gonna be able to get the chicken cutlets done. And that should be perfect timing. So for this dressing, I'm just gonna make a really simple dressing. My sister-in-law has a really yummy, it's a mint, honey, lemon juice dressing for putting on fruit salad. I don't have any mint right now. My mint was in a pot and I did not water it and it died. I don't know why. I cannot keep mint alive for some reason. I need to put it in a pot, and I need to ask Josh to irrigate that pot, because I've learned I don't have time to sit and irrigate pots. I've been able to water most of my green stalks and keep those alive. Josh is going to irrigate those next year. My hanging baskets didn't make it. We all only have so much time in the day and so much energy, and my hanging baskets had to be sacrificed. So I'm going to do both lemon juice and orange juice in this dressing because I think it's going to be delicious. It's going to be super simple. I'm not going to put any salt or anything in the dressing. I'm probably going to salt the fruit. We'll see what I end up doing. But I made a watermelon side dish the other day, and I just put lemon juice, lemon zest, and salt on it. And everyone loved the salt. I know it sounds weird. If I make too much dressing for the fruit, which I probably will, because I'm going to go ahead and just juice both the whole orange and the whole lemon, I can turn this into a savory vinaigrette later. Or we could even put this vinaigrette, I could just put some oil on my greens too, if I decide to use this on the greens instead of that tomato vinaigrette. I'm letting that completely cool. I'm going to pop that in the fridge because that might be a little too thick for the really tender greens I got from the farmer's market. So maybe I'll use this with some oil. I won't put oil in this because I don't want oil on the fruit. Some of this honey from our bees. Probably 2 tablespoons. It's a very, 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 very light honey. But honey isn't all the way mixed in. Oh man, this for a cocktail starter would be delicious. I'm not making a cocktail for this dinner. My friends are gonna bring some wine and that will be served with dinner. I found, you tell me if you would have done this. Well, I obviously wouldn't be able to drink it, but I saw a tomato-based mezcal cocktail, and they gave a non-alcoholic version, but you basically made like a tomato simple syrup. And I don't know, I couldn't bring myself to make it because it sounds to me. But you let me know. I don't like Bloody Marys or anything like that, even though I love tomatoes. Ugh. So I'm not making a tomato drink. You let me know if you would have made a tomato drink for this dinner. So now what we're gonna do is get going on, I have 1 hour to do the chicken. I bought the most beautiful breadcrumbs from a local grocery store. There's a grocery store called New Seasons, which I'm pretty sure is kind of a regional grocery store to me. It's my favorite grocery store, but I don't shop there very often because if I'm just getting regular things that I can get at any grocery store, I try to go to other grocery stores because it's more expensive. But for some things like their bakery, it's so good. I bought this stuff for the charcuterie board there because they have a lot of specialty items. But these breadcrumbs, they make them in their bakery in-house, and they're sourdough breadcrumbs. And I'm pretty sure when they have leftover sourdough, because they make all their sourdough in their bakery, they turn it into breadcrumbs, and they're just so good. Now, if I had my own breadcrumbs, I would use those, but I needed way more than what I have. I just have a tiny little bit, and I think the sourdough is gonna be delicious. And I gotta pull this recipe up. Let's see. I also have my oven off for my cheesecake, and I just have it propped open, so that's done now. I didn't print my cutlet recipe. I sure thought I did. Chicken cutlet. I really like the recipe I found. It was this one right here. I will link this down below for you. Oh, we need garlic. I need to go get parsley. I think I'm gonna use dried. We need a lot of cheese. I've not grated the cheese yet. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do right now. This is Parmesan Reggiano from Italy. I always buy this at Costco when I buy it because it's about half the price per pound at Costco than it is at any other grocery store in my area. And I will be here for a while. Oh my goodness. I think I might be out of eggs. So I might not be able to make these cutlets until we get home. But if I have all the components ready, that will be half the battle. So we're just making our classic dredge. We've got flour, breadcrumbs with Parmesan. I need to season this flour pretty well. Salt, pepper, garlic. Oh, that smells good already, just that alone. I still need to check for eggs if I have any. I just did a big breakfast meal prep, so I might be out of eggs. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep my chicken here. I'm gonna grab a piece of parchment paper because we're gonna thin out this chicken. So we've got 2 of our 3 components for our dredge. And we'll see how we're doing on time, but I might just prep this chicken, leave the flour and breadcrumbs, and then come back to it when I get home. I think I'm gonna have just enough time to flatten my cutlets, and then we'll come back and get these dredged up. So I wanna make sure I have really nice cutlets here. The parts that are gonna be funny shaped, this is a perfectly good piece of chicken. I am gonna just put that in a bowl and I will cook up that chicken for some other dish. If I can get 2 really nice pieces out of 1 chicken breast, that would be ideal. But it seems like I'm getting a small piece and then a piece that's like perfect. So nothing will go to waste. I think I have just enough time to get this breading station done and made up. I've got a cookie sheet with a piece of parchment paper and a cooling rack here. And I did find some eggs. So it's gonna go eggs, flour, breadcrumbs. And the recipe that I'm following had a great suggestion. If you have extra breadcrumbs, you could go ahead and throw those in your freezer and use them next time instead of having to toss them. So I thought that was a great plan. And wait, I think it goes flour. Does it go flour, eggs, breadcrumbs? Okay, so here we go. I have all my chicken right here. And then I'm gonna add some more flavor to that flour. I'm gonna add some green goddess. Okay, this is a serious breading station. You know what? I probably did make too many breadcrumbs, so that freezing idea is brilliant because this is a high quality breadcrumb and a high quality cheese, and I do not want it to go to waste. So I have to head out in just a minute. So Josh is going to help me tidy up the kitchen, and he's going to wrap these in saran wrap, pop these in the fridge. The little pieces of chicken I went ahead and took out because I had so much of the breading, and I wrote raw chicken on this. This has the cheese, and it was the chicken that I was dredging. I'm going to put this in the freezer so next time I make chicken cutlets, I can just pull this out. But these I'm going to throw in the freezer raw. I have seen some people say you can throw those directly in the air fryer from raw and then just cook them in the air fryer from frozen, and they're delicious, and I've been wanting to try it. So since I had some extra chicken, I figured, and I had breading, let's go ahead and give that a try. The kitchen is again a disaster due to the dredging station. So Josh, are you willing to take care of that for me? The dishwasher is going to be done in just a couple minutes, so most of those dishes can go straight into the dishwasher. I did not get done setting the table, which is fine. I can do that tonight because something came in the mail that I need to set the table with. And then what else did I not get done? The focaccia, but I was planning to do that tonight anyway. And other than that, I think, let's see. Oh, we have to toast the graham crackers for the cake. I can do that tonight or tomorrow. Okay, I am off. See you in a bit. It is the evening of the first day of meal prep for this dinner party. So basically the day before my friends are coming over and we're going to have this delicious feast. And I need to get going on the focaccia. It's the only thing that I have to do or should do left on this first day. There were other things I could have got to, but we'll get to it in the morning. But focaccia does really better if you can make it up the night before. So I have never made focaccia using fresh milled flour before, and I wanted to give it a try. So we're going to do a 50-50 blend. I'm going to do 50% of the flour in this recipe is going to be hard white wheat, which is a bread flour variety. And then the other part of the flour in this recipe is going to be all-purpose flour. I'm also going to put in a little bit of, this is a basil olive oil. It's delicious. I thought we would just infuse the bread with a little bit more flour. We're going to add some salt. I'm going to mix this together, and I'm going to let the fresh milled flour and water and oil hydrate for a bit before we add our flour. I was just smelling it because the oil that I added was a basil oil, and it smells so good. So I let that flour and water mixture sit for about 15-20 minutes. Now I'm going to add all-purpose flour. The recipe does call for bread flour, but all-purpose flour is going to work just fine. I have found that bread baking felt really, really intimidating when I first started learning to bake bread because so many people, experts, and they are experts. I'm not an expert baker. They definitely recommend using a scale and doing grams and measurements, but I would say the last 2 years I've been heavily practicing my bread baking skills, and I have found that a lot of it has to do with learning the texture and the feel and reading your dough and being really intuitive with it. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and you can play around with ingredients and things like that. Now, bread baking I think is a little bit more forgiving when it comes to that versus like baking a cake or doing really serious baking, like high fancy pastries and things like that. Bread, you can be a little bit more intuitive and it's a little bit more forgiving. So I've now added my yeast to my bread dough. I've mixed it. I've done one stretch and fold. I went and harvested eggs for my chickens. I have only a few chickens at this point right now that are mature enough to lay eggs. We have a lot of chickens, but most of them are pretty young yet. And so I was happy with this egg harvest. So I just got those washed up. That was just a chore that needed to be done. Now here, every 30 minutes for about an hour and a half, I'm going to do what's called a stretch and fold, where I just wet my hand, I take the side of the dough, I stretch it out, and I fold it over about 8 or 9 times until it kind of forms a ball. I'm just smelling the dough because it smells really good. The fresh milled flour and the basil oil just smell delicious. I do this 3 or 4 times. I don't remember exactly how many times I did it. I should at least do it 3. I think I had Josh do it 1 time before he went to bed. I went to bed right after this stretch and fold, and I put the dough in the refrigerator. It is now the next morning, and we've got a lot of things we're going to get to this morning. I love to get up before my family and get things done, but since I've been pregnant, my energy levels have been so low. Normally, that's when I would get a lot of my computer work done, is early in the morning before my family gets up. I love puttering around in my kitchen doing these types of projects we're going to do in the kitchen before my family gets up. And I just haven't been able to do it as much since being pregnant because sleep has been so important. And so I've been sleeping in. And the nice thing is that I am able to do that. So I'm grateful for that. But I do need to start my morning with a cup of coffee. So we're going to start with that. And I preheated the oven so that we could make our toasted graham crackers for our marshmallow cake or s'mores cake. So in this bowl, I have butter, some vanilla, some graham crackers, some salt, and I'm going to mix that together with a little bit of sugar. And we are going to toast up this graham cracker mixture so that we can use this as the graham cracker portion of the s'mores cake. Now, I'm kind of like squeezing the graham crackers in my hand and trying to make little crumbles, but you're going to see it ends up baking up just kind of like a sheet of cookie, which turns out fine. The recipe said, I think, to use 9 graham crackers. I wasn't sure how many 9 graham crackers were because I used pre-ground graham crackers and we were supposed to grind them in a blender. So I'm kind of guesstimating on the ratios of graham crackers to butter to sugar, but it ends up turning out just fine. I think I put like a cup and a half of graham crackers in there. Now we're going to get going on our focaccia. So this is the focaccia dough we made the night before that's been sitting in the refrigerator. This part takes a good 4 hours or so, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. It can take longer, it can take shorter time. We need this dough to proof. And I am making this portion up of the recipe. I wanted to add inclusions into this dough. And this is a new thing for me. I've never added inclusions into focaccia. I guess that's not true. When I was in Montana, not this last summer, but the summer before, I made a cinnamon roll focaccia. So I mixed in cinnamon and butter and sugar. And instead of using oil as the base, I used butter. And it was one of the best things ever. But I've never added in any sort of like produce or anything into my focaccia. So I've got these tomatoes that we confit the night before, and I've got some roasted garlic that I just got at the store to save myself a step. And I am deciding to peel the skins off these tomatoes because I thought it would be a better texture. Because the tomatoes had confit, the tomatoes came off of the tomatoes came off. The skins came off the tomatoes no problem. And so I figured I would take the time to remove the skins off of the tomatoes. Now I am folding this focaccia like a letter, so in 1/3 and 1/3, and I'm trying to add inclusions as I do that. Now I will note that this ends up turning out really well, but I added way more moisture to the dough, I think because I was adding oil and things, and the tomatoes themselves have moisture to them, that I should have baked this focaccia longer than I did. I baked it the length of time I normally do, and you're going to see later on that the dough was not totally cooked, but I am able to save it and it ends up turning out delicious. But in the future, I probably would not add confit cherry tomatoes into focaccia. I would probably add a sun-dried tomato. I think that moisture level would do better in an inclusion into a bread. But you're going to see it ends up turning out fine. But that's just something to note for my future self because I was making that up. I wanted to kind of think, okay, in the future, how would I adjust this so that it does turn out perfect without me having to, you're going to see what I'm going to do to fix it. At this point, we are going to make our marshmallow frosting for our s'mores cake. So we have our graham crackers out of the oven. I have my butter cubed up here, and then I need to separate some eggs from some yolks. And these yolks are not going to go to waste. I will give those yolks and eggshells to the chickens, and they will go crazy for them. I would have given them to my dogs, except that I put them in with the shells, and I wasn't sure how to get the shells out of the egg yolks. So in the future, I will definitely put those in 3 individual bowls and give them to the dogs. But here we're going to make a marshmallow fluff. So to the egg whites, I added sugar, and then I cooked it on the stove with a double boiler until it reached 160 because we are pasteurizing the eggs. And now I am going to toast up the marshmallow. So this is the marshmallow fluff that basically it just has sugar, egg whites that I cooked on the stove and whipped it for about 5 minutes until it got light and fluffy. I'm going to take my blowtorch. I'm going to torch the marshmallow fluff, and then I am going to mix the torched fluff into the marshmallow, and then I'm going to torch it again, mix it in, torch it again, mix it again, torch it again, mix it again. And I do this about 5 times. And basically what we're making here is a marshmallow buttercream. And this smells absolutely heavenly. And this was so easy. This part of the recipe felt the most intimidating because you did have to cook the egg whites on the stove with the sugar without scrambling the eggs with a double boiler. And it was really, really easy. It did take about 10 to 15 minutes because I tried to cook it really, really slow. I did not want to scramble the eggs. So it did take a little bit of time, but I was surprised how easy it was. So basically I used my KitchenAid stainless steel bowl as the bowl that I put over a pot of boiling water on the stove. I didn't have the boiling water touch the bottom of the mixer bowl. And so it did take me a minute to find a pot that was small enough yet big enough to work as a double boiler, but it ended up working out just fine. And as I was doing this, I was thinking there's so many fun things you could use this for in particular without torching it. You could take this really beautiful marshmallow fluff and use that as a frosting in and of itself, and then toast the cake and decorate the cake with this marshmallow fluff. And so I'm going to go into more detail about that later once I've decorated this cake. I have thoughts on how I want to use this part of the recipe in future recipes. So here I'm scraping down the sides of the bowl. I want the marshmallow fluff to be room temperature so that we can create a buttercream. So I'm adding about 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of butter at a time. And then after that all incorporates, that took another 10 minutes or so because I was really slow adding the butter and just the butter into the marshmallow fluff because I didn't want it to break. The recipe had mentioned that that was a possibility. So I just took my time and did other stuff around the kitchen. I was like unloading the dishwasher, and Josh did a bunch of cleaning for me the night before. So I was trying to put away what he had cleaned, and I was just going through and putting 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter in at a time. And then I did add at the very end a little bit of vanilla paste. And now we're going to decorate this cake. Now, one thing about this recipe is that there was not very much frosting. If I was to make this cake again following the recipe exactly as written, which I'm going to go into more detail about later, I would double the frosting recipe because I had to be extremely conservative when it came to frosting this cake. So what I've done here is I added a little bit of frosting on my cake plate, and then I used parchment paper around so that it wouldn't make a mess when I frost on the cake plate. I added 1 cake layer to the bottom of my cake pan. I added some frosting, and now I'm breaking my graham crackers that we toasted, and I'm adding that to the frosting. And then I did do a dollop of frosting on top of the graham crackers so that my next cake layer would stick. And this is where I'm a little stressed. It probably took me about 20 to 30 minutes to make this frosting. It was not hard, but it took time because each step when I was using the double boiler was very slow. And then when I was adding the butter, it was very slow. And so I'm considering making more frosting at this point, but I kind of don't want to. And so I'm trying to be very, very conservative adding the frosting to this cake. I'm trying to decide, should I take this cake apart and add more frosting to the middle layer and do an open face cake where I don't frost the sides? And then I decided against it. It took me a minute to figure out how I was going to frost it. I was able to get frosting around the whole cake without the cake showing, but that did take some time. So again, if I was to make this recipe exactly as written, I would change by doubling the frosting. That way it's just not as stressful. And you'll see when we cut into the cake, there's just not very much frosting. Now, I'm not a frosting fan, but I know that a lot of people who I feed love frosting. And so I think that a double recipe, or even just a 1.5 recipe, it would make the frosting of the cake a little less stressful. So I took the rest of the graham crackers and I put them around the side of the cake. And so this is how I have decorated the cake. One other reason I was hoping that I doubled the frosting recipe, or was considering doubling it, is I didn't have any extra frosting to put cute little dollops on the top. I was thinking it would have been cute to do like 6 or 8 little cookie scoops of frosting on the top, and then taking a piece of chocolate and breaking chocolate and stabbing those into the little dollops. It would have made it feel a little bit more finished, but I didn't have another 30 minutes or so to devote to making more frosting just for that. But that's another thing that I was thinking, it would be nice to have a little extra frosting because you could decorate it a little bit better. Now, another project I wanted to get to is I have a table full of tomatoes that need to go into the freezer. I really didn't want that table full of tomatoes out for a couple of reasons when my guests came over. One, they needed to go into the freezer, and 2, I wanted my kitchen to look a little bit neater and tidier. So I took the opportunity to wash all these tomatoes and let them dry. I let them dry for about, an hour or so, and then I put them in paper bags and I got those into the freezer. Now I picked out some really beautiful tomatoes so that we can make our galette. Now I chopped up or sliced up way more tomatoes than I needed, so the extra tomatoes that I didn't, or slices of tomatoes that I didn't end up using for the galette, I just put in the freezer, and we will turn those tomatoes into tomato sauce. But for the galette, I need to salt these tomatoes on both sides. I have them on a cooling rack so that they can drip into the sink and the extra moisture can drip away and we can have a little bit more of a concentrated tomato, and that way our galette doesn't get soggy. So it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for those tomatoes to sit there with the salt on it and drip away. So while that's happening, I'm going to roll out my pie crust. Now, I have a tomato pie recipe that is absolutely delicious. And my thought was, when I was making this galette, is that I was going to adapt that recipe and use the creamy, cheesy mixture in that recipe for this recipe. But when we made our whipped feta and ricotta from the day before, I realized I made way more whipped feta and ricotta than I would need for the appetizer. So I just think, I'm just going to use that whipped feta ricotta mixture as the cheesy base for this cheese galette. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that in just a minute. And it ends up turning out delicious. So I get my pie crust rolled out. You can see it over there. It's on a cookie sheet. I want to add some more tomatoes, and I want to get this focaccia ready to go into the oven. So I am taking my fingers and I am making little dimples in my focaccia dough. This is what gives you that really signature focaccia look. And I'm going to add more tomatoes, more garlic, and I'm taking the garlic that I roasted the tomatoes with and I'm adding that into the focaccia dough. I also think, because the oil in these tomatoes is not just oil, it's also tomato juices from the tomatoes, that is adding moisture to the dough. And so that is another reason why the focaccia was a little bit moist coming out of the oven. And I think part of it too is when I ended up taking the focaccia out of the oven, I also let it sit and rest and cool completely in the glass. I didn't take it out. I probably should have taken the dough out of the glass baking dish and let it cool on a cooling rack as well. So there, it's going into the oven. I'll show you what that looks like coming out of the oven. So at this point, my tomatoes are soaking. I put my cheese mixture down on my pastry dough. That's in the refrigerator chilling, and we're going to finish off this cheesecake. Try not to make a mess. So in here, I have just a couple ounces of mascarpone cheese that I had in my fridge that needed to be used up. I want to make a thicker whipped cream, and so I thought the mascarpone cheese would help stabilize my whipped cream. I added some vanilla, a little bit of powdered sugar, and heavy whipping cream. I'm going to whip that together, and we're going to use this pretty thick whipped cream to finish decorating our beautiful cheesecake. This was one of the easiest cheesecakes I've ever made that's not just a plain cheesecake, because you didn't have to cook the graham cracker crust, you didn't have to cook the blackberry filling, and it turned out perfect. I don't know if I will cook well, I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know if I'll ever cook a fruit mix-in with cheesecake again because this worked out so well. I don't know if it's because blackberries maybe have more pectin in them than, like, say, a strawberry. I'm not sure. But I do know that for blackberries, if you want to make a blackberry swirled cheesecake, you don't have to cook it, and it turned out great. So this recipe is definitely a winner, and I will make that recipe again. And I don't think I could tell. The only thing I maybe would do that recipe didn't call for is I probably would cook the graham cracker crust, because that doesn't take that much more time, because you can just throw that in the oven and kind of pre-cook that while you're doing other things. So I probably will stick to pre-cooking my crust, but the filling, it was really nice not having to cook the filling. Now here I'm layering up these beautiful, beautiful tomatoes, with topping them with some salt and pepper and a ton of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And then I'm going to fold up the galette. I love a galette because it looks so impressive, yet it is so easy. So easy. Now I do take the time to make sure that I pinch each folded edge so that it seals nicely. But for something that was super easy, you really can have a showstopper. And then I do take the time to egg wash the edge so that we get a nice brown color. And this was delicious. It turned out so good with the feta and ricotta base. A lot of the recipes I had mentioned earlier call for goat cheese, and I'm not a goat cheese fan, but if you love goat cheese, I can see how that would be really delicious. I love the idea of goat cheese and tomato. I just don't like goat cheese. There's two cheeses that I really don't like, goat cheese and blue cheese, and I wish I liked both of them. I don't like them, but I can intellectually think through the flavor profile and think, yes, blue cheese with a bacon cheeseburger would be delicious, or blue cheese and I don't know what, like a blue cheese salad with walnuts and bacon, and sounds delicious to me, except I don't like it, even though I wish I did. Now here is a absolutely beautiful melon. I tried growing melons this year, complete flop. And so when I went to the farmer's market to pick up a few things, I was talking to one of the local farmers who is in my area. He's the one that recommended the compost that I used this year in my garden, which I think the compost really did make a big difference. I had not been fertilizing my garden. I started out about every 2 weeks for the first 6 weeks of gardening season where I was fertilizing, and then I just couldn't, I didn't have it in me to do it. And my garden still is producing like crazy, and it's doing so well. And I think it's because of the compost that I added early spring, and that is because of my local farmer who is very generous and is so willing to answer my questions about gardening and things like that. I actually was talking to him about the rust fungal disease that I've been having, and he was telling me that because I had mentioned that I've had this problem on my garlic, and he says he gets it on his garlic all the time and he just accepts it. But he did recommend, because I was telling him all the recommendations that you all have told me that of how to fix the problem. And realistically and logistically, I can't replace all of my soil in my beds. That was like the number one recommendation because of just logistically digging out all the soil, and then where do I dump it, and then the cost of that, because soil is very expensive. So what he recommended, and what many of you guys recommended, is not covering my garden beds this winter, which I have been covering my garden beds for, the past 3 years, and that's not allowing the soil to breathe, and fungus loves moist, not very well ventilated areas. And so I'm going to follow your all's advice, and he concurred with you all. So I appreciate your all's input, and I appreciated that he took the time to kind of talk me through that as well. So I could not figure out how I wanted to plate this. I was thinking of trying to do some really cool design with the melons and the peaches, but I could not figure out how to lay everything out. So we're just going to make a
more traditional salad. So I sliced up the melon. I sliced up these beautiful peaches from a different local farmer. And I've got the blackberries my son and I picked the day before. And I'm going to top it with our really simple vinaigrette dressing. Our galette is out of the oven. Our bread is out of the oven. And now I'm going to get going on the panzanella salad. I just picked some different tomatoes that had different colors, different textures. I'm going to slice them all up a little bit different. We have three different varieties of cherry tomatoes. We've got I think that's a Paul Robeson tomato. It might not be. And then I've got two of my favorite tomatoes, which are the pineapple tomatoes. We're going to get those into a bowl. And then I'm just going to cover those, and those are going to be ready for us in a little bit when we are going to make our panzanella salad. This was a really productive morning in here. This took me many different, don't think I got this done all in one stretch. I think at this point when I'm cleaning the counters, it is around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And so I was doing, different sections early in the morning, taking breaks, hanging out with my family, having breakfast, and doing different things throughout the day. So this did not all happen in one stretch. Many things have happened. I probably rotated laundry. Josh and I probably sat down and had a cup of coffee. We had breakfast. We read books, all sorts of fun things. And then I was able to get the kitchen nice and clean.
What a productive morning. We have one big final thing we need to do before we pull this whole dinner together. Let me show you everything that we got done. I did do one last thing in the kitchen, is I got the charcuterie board done. So remember, I'm going to be frying all these chicken cutlets while my friends are here. So I wanted something for them to graze on. I'm gonna pop this back in the fridge. I just pulled it out so you could see it. We have a more traditional salami, a really spicy salami, Havarti cheese, a really, really dry aged cheddar cheese, some corn nuts, and some olives. And I'm gonna serve that with our confit tomatoes, and that has the whipped feta on the bottom. I did go ahead and put this out, even though they're not gonna be here for about an hour and a half, because I want that cheese to get up a little bit more to room temperature. We have our focaccia out of the oven. Our pie is now cool. Cake is done, cheesecake's in the fridge, and then I did, you know what? Those croutons that I cooked yesterday, were chewy and not very good. I mean, they were delicious. I snacked on them. My family has been snacking on them. They're not gonna go to waste, but I don't think they're gonna make a delicious salad. So when I picked up the burrata yesterday, I also picked up another loaf of sourdough bread, just in case that bread was not gonna be at its prime today. I should have just sliced it last night and let it air dry and then toasted it today, but live and learn. I won't make my croutons the day before again. I have done this twice now, and I can learn my lesson. So we're gonna toast those up closer to when we eat. But the big last thing I want to do is get the table set. So I have been pulling out different items to set the table. I've got my bee glasses. I can link these as a little bubble that pops up on YouTube. We've got some wine glasses because my friends are going to be bringing some wine. These are my new plates. Maiden sent me this plate collection. I'm so excited. You all know the Maiden company that has my griddle that you just saw on my stove. I have their stainless steel pot collection. Well, they also do like dishes and things like that. And when they knew that I was gonna be doing a tomato themed dinner party, they said they had the perfect dishes for me. They're not sponsoring today's video. They did gift me this dish set, and I think it's gonna go perfectly with this tablescape. I think the red will just highlight really well, and I can't wait to use these for things like Valentine's Day and just different tablescapes. I think they have a black rimmed one too that is really, really cute as well. They are made in England, I think. Josh washed all of these for me yesterday. Yeah, made in England. So I can link these plates for you as well, but that's something fun and exciting. And then I think I showed you these tomatoes already, and I did get a new tablecloth, and we're going to just use these tomatoes in these dishes and get this table set. Oh, I also wanted to show you this. This is some soap. Josh has actually purchased some soap from her, and this soap was a gift she sent, and she also makes a concentrate. This is Candace Rose. I will link her company down below. She started her soap company when she was 15. She's now 17, and we are loving her soap. I do make soap myself, but this is a whole nother caliber of homemade soap. And I can't wait to try her laundry detergent. So we have lemon triple butter, we have lavender salt bar. This is the one Josh purchased, the eucalyptus mint. Orange I'll like. So there's a bunch of different ones. So I'm really excited about this. So I just wanted to share this with you because she is an entrepreneur and she makes some really beautiful soap. The floors still need to be mopped, but I figured we would do that very last thing. And Josh is working on doing some other things. I did get this area cleaned up. It was not terrible, but it did need to be tidied up. I cleaned the cushions, the patio's been swept up. I picked up the toys and just put them in one area, but I think we're gonna sit outside because it's like the perfect temperature today. It might be a tad warm right at this exact moment, but when we actually sit down to eat, this table will be in the shade and it'll be perfect. I think it's only supposed to be a high of like 82 today. I did also wipe down this table really well. We eat out here all the time and it gets pretty well used, so it needed a good clean. This is a new tablecloth I bought on Amazon. I think it's super pretty. It's natural fiber. It has these little tassels, and I thought the green would just pop really well with the tomatoes. Maybe I need to go in and iron it. I don't know. Might be a little long too. No, I think it's good. Josh and I will sit on the ends because it is maybe a tad long. So our guests don't have to have the long table in their lap. I don't think there's going to be actually any flowers on this table. It'll just be greenery and tomatoes. And this is going to bother me if I don't get these wrinkles out of this. So we are going to go inside and give this an iron real quick. Oh goodness, there's a big bug. Gross. All right, take two. Let me go iron this. I'll be right back. Okay, hopefully this is a little better. Might not be perfect, but I think if it sits out in the sun a little bit, it will kind of hopefully de-wrinklefy itself a little bit. I do like this new tablecloth. I do think it's really pretty. And I was thinking when I was ironing this, I might not put any greenery down. I might just, yeah, there's still wrinkles in it, but I think it'll be okay. Once I have everything else on here, you won't even know there's wrinkles on. So I'm gonna just go grab a bunch of tomatoes, and I think I might leave that greenery off and just see if I can build this table. Let's make sure these stripes are even here before I start putting a bunch of tomatoes down. You wanna come look out here, Josh? So I think I'm gonna anchor this table with my tomato candles because this is what inspired this whole dinner. Maybe I won't use them. Maybe I'll just light those inside. We'll see. But I definitely want candles on this table. I think I'm gonna have to tweak those tomatoes a little bit, but I figured I need to get my chargers out because I don't really want the tomatoes touching the chargers. And so, yeah. Do I wanna lean some up against each other? Maybe? Or do I want them kind of having area to breathe? I'm not sure yet. This is definitely stretching my creativity, which I think is good. It's fun. I like this table because it's wide, like my table inside. That's one thing about folding tables is they're skinny, so it's a little harder to set a table. I have two different color, napkins. I've got these green linen ones I got from IKEA, And then I have these ones with the little, I can't remember what that's called. But I think these cream runs, these are from Anthropologie, are a little too clashy with the, not enough contrast with the tablecloth. There's green in this tablecloth. Excuse me, you weren't invited. So I think I'm gonna go with the green linen ones from IKEA. Okay, that looks good. I just had a thought. We might go like that. I got all the silverware out in the quantities I need, and then I measured out or counted out how many. Let's see, right hand, doesn't it go? You all tell me. I do this wrong every time. Right hand, knife goes inwards, and then spoon on the outside, fork on the left. You'll tell me if that's wrong. I know you will. And I appreciate it, because I need the reminder, because I can never remember. Not that it really matters, but I guess as long as it's consistent, that's the more important thing. Oh, extra napkin. Oh, now that has to be washed. I'm gonna set the plates out for the dessert, and I counted out the silverware for the dessert as well. So I'm not scrounging. Usually I'm scrounging at that point. I grabbed out a couple more tomatoes, but I don't think we need them. I think what I would rather do is see if I can fit in some more candles. And I need to grab out the wine glasses. I think the table is now set. This is definitely a really fun table and definitely something that is new. When the lighting's a little bit better, I will give you a better look, especially when the candles are lit. I decided obviously not to use that, and kind of had a weird smell. It's a type of eucalyptus, and I'm not gonna use any pillar candles. That was in my original plan. Oh, that's a good right there. You can really see with the sun, the tomatoes, how beautiful that is. But that is a type of eucalyptus, and it kind of has this weird smell to it. So I don't want my guests to be smelling a weird eucalyptus smell when they're eating a dinner I have spent all 2 days on. Josh, do you want to see the table? Yeah. He's gonna come look at the table. Then we're gonna get going on baking the bread.
Oh wow, looks great.
Thanks.
Those candles are very realistic.
Yeah, don't they look like
They
real
look like
tomatoes?
just tomatoes.
So I have 3 of the tomato. I could maybe put 1 more right here. Maybe we could do 4. But I was thinking about also putting it inside with the charcuterie board. Doesn't the plates and the silverware and the napkins look really nice?
Yeah, I like the red for tomatoes.
Yeah, I thought it was cute.
Very cute.
Thank you.
That sun is something, huh?
Yes, it's very bright. I think it'll be in shade by the time we eat. That won't be a problem. Josh is off to go pick up a game. We are gonna play a game called Herd Mentality. When we were in Montana, we played this game a lot, and it was a lot of fun. I'm gonna get this oven preheated to 400 degrees so I can bake my second round of bread. So these I'm gonna go ahead and get put away. We don't need them. I will just use these for a different dinner party. I've been kind of collecting. I really like this brand. The first time I ever bought this brand of beeswax candles was when you and I went shopping at Home Goods. I got them for the St. Patrick's Day party there, and then you can buy these on Amazon. I can link these down below for you too if you're interested. And my local grocery store also carries them. So I'm starting to create a little collection of different colored ones for different parties. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. And then I wanted to show you this. This is what I have set out so far. I've got some napkins out, some plates, and this is where people can have their little appetizers. Josh will bring up some chairs and things so people can kind of sit around here. I've got more crackers up there that I need to get out while I'm frying up the chicken, but I need to unload this dishwasher. I started it, and I think I wanna get this bread in the oven first thing though. I tried to do that in advance, but apparently that was not a great idea. And you know, I do think I salted them a little heavier than I would have ideally liked. I mean, we have ate probably a quarter of them. They're still delicious. There's nothing wrong with them. But since I have a second chance, I'm gonna be a little bit more conservative with the salt. That just broke. My friends are gonna be here in about an hour and a half, and about a half an hour before I fry my chicken, I'm gonna take that out of the fridge so it can kind of come up to room temperature. Round 2 going in. I didn't show you this earlier. I did get this table cleared of the tomatoes, except for these. I wasn't sure all the ones that I wanted to use. What I'm probably gonna do with these ones is just cut the cores out and throw these in the freezer, because we will eat all of the decorative tomatoes that are on the table, of course. Those aren't gonna go to waste. We will eat those over the weekend. Today's Friday, so we'll eat those over the weekend, and we will throw whatever we don't eat in the freezer. And I was out in the garden earlier, and there's a lot more tomatoes out there that I need to harvest, which is a good thing. So I think what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and get this dishwasher unloaded. And then we do need to cut up this focaccia. It's so pure pretty. And I need to get a bunch of basil harvested for topping our galette and topping or adding into our tomato salad. I got the dishwasher unloaded. I also got myself a beverage, and I took the chicken out because we're about an hour or so away from cooking this up. I got 2 pans out with some oil in it ready to fry them. I took out the croutons, and let me tell you, no regrets redoing this. Crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside. They are gonna be perfect, and they're perfectly seasoned. I also got this out, so when the chicken is done being fried, I'll put it on here to rest, and then I will season it with some salt. I went ahead and I put some flaky salt in my salt dispenser. I have the island all ready to go. I have our panzanella salad ready with the dressing, just needs to be topped. I've got some fresh basil we're gonna put on it. This platter is for the cutlets. This platter is for the fruit salad. I need to put some basil on the top of this when I process the basil. We're gonna put our bread in here. I almost forgot I bought arugula at the farmer's market, so I have arugula in here that I will toss, I think, with Parmesan cheese, olive oil. Actually, I'll probably pour some of the oil off this on it, and maybe some fresh lemon juice. And then I'm going to top that on the chicken cutlets, and then I'm gonna top the tomatoes on the top of that. And I almost forgot 2 things. I also picked up from the farmer's market from a local farm some grapes. So I have those washed and ready to go. I'll pull those out. I want them to be cold, so I'll pull those out when those are ready. And then I did buy lettuce mix because I was gonna do a salad. I don't think I need to have a salad too. I think between the focaccia, the appetizers, all of the other things we have, I think we're gonna be good. Plus we have 2 desserts. I did pull out 2 mason jars. I know my friends will want to harvest a bouquet of flowers, and so they can go ahead and do that. And I got 2 pairs of scissors out so they can make themselves a bouquet. They can pick whatever produce they want out of the garden, and they will go home with a goodie bag. They can take tomatoes home and green beans and zucchini, flowers, whatever they want to take home. I'm gonna pull the cheesecake out when my friends get here, just so that it's not so cold, but I don't wanna pull that out quite yet. So I've got some time. Josh is still out getting the game and running some errands and stuff. So I am gonna go sit on the back patio in the perfect weather right now and just wait, because I don't have anything I need to do, I don't think, until my friends get here, which is exciting. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be something a little different, cooking, and it's like dinner and a show a little bit. I decided before I sit down, I'm gonna actually go ahead and get this focaccia cut up. I think this turned out so well using that fresh milled flour. I love focaccia. It's almost like fried bread by the time you put all the oil in it. Look at that. I I'm really glad I did not just go sit down right when I was going to, because my focaccia, some parts of it were pretty, that's pretty warm still. They were not soggy, but a little underdone. Okay. Well, they were cooked fully, but they were a little soggy, I think, from sitting with the tomatoes that have so much moisture. So this oven is still pretty warm from, what did I have in here? I cooked something in here. I can't remember what now at this point, but I just put that in there on keep warm for about 20 minutes, and I think it's dried out beautifully. So now I have, it's probably been there for 15 minutes, and I think it's gonna be perfect. I was worried. There were some parts that I just cut off and gave to the chickens because they were soggy and not pleasant. But the parts that I saved, I think are gonna be delicious. So I think if I make focaccia again with mix-ins, I need to make sure that I mix in things that aren't as, doesn't have as high of a moisture content as a roasted tomato. But that's okay. That's what happens when you make things up. You live and you learn, and it is what it is. So not all things go perfectly smoothly, but most things we can recover from. We just had to buy a new thing of sourdough bread, cut it up, toast it up, and we had to put that focaccia in the oven. So now what I'm gonna do is go outside now that the table is set and everything is ready to go. I have probably 15, 20 minutes before Josh gets here, and I have about, I don't know, 45 minutes before my friends get here. So I'm gonna sit here with my feet up, enjoy the shade / sunshine, and get prepared for the show that is about to be this dinner. Hopefully it all turns out well, and I'm sure it will be delicious. Cheers, friend.
I do sit down, I promise. I just don't always show myself just sitting down because that's not super entertaining to watch. But I probably had about 20-30 minutes where I was able to just sit. I probably watched a YouTube video, and then I realized, oh, my friends are going to be here in just a few minutes. So what I wanted to do before they got there, because the recipe that I am following or being inspired by for this salad said, it is best if you can let the croutons sit in the dressing for about 30 minutes or so. So I wanted to go ahead and get this done. As I was doing this, my friends pulled up and they came in all at once because they carpooled, so that was perfect timing. So what we did is we went out into the garden and they had a lot of fun. They were picking their flower arrangements and picking some produce and things like that that they wanted to take home. So that was kind of fun. So in here we have our croutons, we have our tomatoes. I put in a ton of basil that I just threw in there whole. I put in our roasted heirloom tomato confit dressing, and then I got some burrata, and I'm just breaking that up and putting that in there. I'm going to mix all of that together, and then I will break up some burrata. The last burrata that's in my container, I end up just putting on the top so that you can see the nice bright white of that beautiful cheese in here. This is so good. It is a kind of a fun take on a caprese salad if you like a caprese salad, but I would say it's a step above because it has this incredibly delicious dressing and then of course croutons. I mean, and those are some big croutons. So here's what the appetizer station looked like all put together. I went ahead and I lit some candles. I got the crackers out. The grapes were probably the biggest hit, along with the confit tomatoes. My friend's husband brought stuff to make cocktails. He also brought a red wine and a white wine. We decanted the red wine. Josh lit the candles. And what we did, this was not how I was planning to do the evening, but everyone grabbed a plate after my friends spent time in the garden and we spent time in the garden. You can see here is their bouquets that they made up for themselves. And we grabbed appetizers and then we sat at the table for probably 30 minutes and just talked while we ate our appetizers. This was so amazing. I've never done like a cocktail hour or appetizer hour. This is my water glass. Josh did have some wine and everyone just kind of had some wine, but I obviously wasn't having any of that. But it was so fun to have like this little cocktail hour where we just sat and talked. I did not do any cooking at this point. We were just enjoying the appetizers. The confit tomatoes were a huge hit. The confit tomatoes and the grapes for the appetizers definitely were the #1 hit. After we sat and enjoyed our appetizers, we went all inside and the show began. It wasn't much of a show, but basically I, with Josh's help, cooked up the chicken and they just hung around and we talked and it was so fun. I felt a little bit nervous about doing this. I don't have a ton of frying experience. I've made cutlets a few times, but there was definitely a little bit more pressure making cutlets for a dinner party, but it was so fun and rewarding. And the nice thing about this is it goes so quick because these are cutlets that I had let kind of come to room temperature and we'd already done all the hard work of the breading them the day before. They cooked up on each side in a matter of probably 4 minutes. I wanted them to be crispy. I checked their temperature. Once they reached the proper temperature, I took them off and I put them on this prepared baking sheet. And then I did top each chicken cutlet with some salt. I felt like a professional doing that. When I cook cutlets in the past, or when I've cooked cutlets in the past for myself, I don't think I have ever salted the cutlet coming out of the fryer before, but I would always see people do this on cooking shows like Food Network and stuff. So I felt like a professional. So at this point, he's manning the cutlets, and then I wanted to get some greens flavored up. I'm going to use some of the basil oil. I've got some lemon juice. I salt and peppered them, and I put a ton of Parmesan cheese in this bowl with a ton of arugula. This arugula is from the same farmer that I bought the melons from. I've tried growing arugula, and I haven't had the best luck because it typically bolts so fast. So I am happy to buy arugula from a local farmer. So now I am going to plate up this fruit salad. Last dinner party I had was the first time I'd ever added a fruit component to a dinner as it being kind of a dish. And I guess that's not true. I mean, when I've done parties with my mom, we've definitely done fruit salads before, but I would say this is the first time whenever I have been responsible for the menu at my house that I have added a fruit component, and I really like it. It added a sweetness to the menu. It added a freshness. I mean, these peaches and melons and blackberries are at the height of ripeness. They are so good that they probably didn't need that little dressing that I put on it, but I'm going to tell you that dressing just took these simple fruits over the top. Delicious. The fruit salad probably would be more beautiful with a little bit of mint in there, but I didn't have any mint and I didn't buy any mint at the farmer's market, so mint was not in there, but I think that would have been really delicious as well. Even basil. Oh, I probably could have added some basil to it and it would have been delicious as well. While I was finishing up that fruit salad or plating it, Josh finished the cutlets. He checked each one to make sure the internal temperature was correct. He seasoned them, and I am going to go ahead and get these plated up. This was so delicious. I cannot tell you how good this was. The Parmesan cheese really came through in the breading, and you're going to see how I top it. I felt like a professional topping the cutlets. I am by no means a professional. I am a home cook who enjoys trying new things and really pushing myself when it comes to recipes. And so you can see here, I've got this beautiful arugula that's seasoned incredibly. And then I had the thought, this was not my original thought, but I thought I'm going to take these confit tomatoes and just put this down the center. And let me tell you, this was so good. And a few of us, even after we plated up our dish, we took some of that ricotta mixture from the appetizer and we put that on top of the chicken cutlet. And so it was basically chicken cutlet, arugula salad, confit tomatoes, and that feta ricotta cheese. So good. So here I'm showing you what all the dishes look like together, and I'm just so happy with how this turned out. It was so generous of my friend's husband to bring a cocktail that he was able to kind of make for the individuals who wanted that, and the fact that he brought a couple bottles of really special wine to him from a winery that he really loves just paired really well with this dinner that I was able to throw together. So we are super excited to sit down and eat a delicious dinner. We ended up probably eating dinner around 7:15, 7:30, something like that. And we ended up sitting out here until 11:15. We did not end up playing games. We just sat out here and talked, and it was so incredibly wonderful. The atmosphere was beautiful, the food was delicious, and the company was even better. I have been so enjoying over the last probably 2 years being able to create a beautiful menu and a beautiful table and invite my friends and or family or both over for a delicious meal. And then we always like to end it with a delicious dessert. So here is what the chocolate cake looks like. And then the cheesecake turned out so good. It was so fun making 2 desserts. It was more desserts than we needed. So half of the desserts went home with my friends. And then I still had tons of desserts. We had a family dinner the following day at Josh's dad's house. And so I was able to take the leftover desserts over there. So we were able to enjoy these desserts for 2 family or 1 friend gathering and 1 family gathering. And so that was really fun because I love to show people the way I love through food. Good morning. It is the next day. It was a wonderful dinner party. Everything went off without a hitch. I'll talk you through the menu. Josh spent so much time last night cleaning up. He did all the dishes. I will take care of this tablescape, no problem at all. The biggest thing was the dishes. This dinner party did create a lot of dishes, but it's totally, totally worth it. We sat out here until 11:30, I think. Our neighbor has some new dogs, so they're out there with the new dogs. Oh my goodness, the chicken was delicious. Putting those confit tomatoes, the confit tomatoes stole the show. Everyone said the whipped ricotta and feta, it was not overpowering feta. One of my friends, I totally forgot she doesn't like feta. I knew she didn't like it, and there was feta in that, but she loved it. She said that it wasn't overpoweringly feta. It was a lot of ricotta. You saw what went into it. But the confit tomatoes stole the show. I put those confit tomatoes on the chicken, and then after I plated up my own plate, I went back and I spooned on some of that ricotta feta on the chicken, and then a bunch of other people did that, and it was so good. The galette was delicious. The pie crust turned out perfect. The focaccia was fantastic. That trick of just throwing it right into the oven dried it out. It was perfect. The panzanella salad was delicious. Now, the only thing with that is I should have made half of what I made because it was the perfect texture when we ate it, but it was not going to be good the next day. So Josh, when he did his cleanup, he gave it to the chicken. So that was a little bit sad, is that I should have planned for that would not make good leftovers and to make half the quantity. Almost all of the fruit got eaten. We're going to finish up the fruit this morning. The dressing on that was delicious. It was such fresh fruit. It was so good. The galette was delicious. I think that's everything we made. Oh, let's talk about the desserts because I have lots of thoughts about the desserts. Cheesecake, fantastic. I loved the cheesecake. Everyone loved the cheesecake. Everyone went home with a bunch of cheesecake. The s'mores cake, I have thoughts on that. It was good. It was not a 10 out of 10. It was good cake. It was cake, right? But I think the cake itself could have had more flavor. I want to make a s'mores cake again. I'm inspired to make a s'mores cake again. But what I want to do is I want to use my mom's chocolate cake on Scratch Pantry. It's called Leah's Chocolate Cake. I want to take that cake recipe because I love that cake. I want to make the meringue, but not add the butter. The butter changed the texture of it, and it tasted good, but there was not enough frosting. So I want to take that same meringue recipe where we cooked the eggs and the sugar and we whipped it, and I want to take double that, and I want to use that as the frosting and not torch it in the mixer. I want to frost the cake and then torch the cake so the cake is all toasted. I think that would be beautiful, and then do this graham cracker crust the exact same way. That's what I'm thinking, that I'm going to try this again, but I'm going to do it different. It was a good cake. There's nothing wrong with that cake recipe, but I think it could have been more beautiful. And I think that with some tweaks, it could be like a 10 out of 10. And it was just good cake. It wasn't over the top delicious. So what we're going to do this morning, it's been a slow morning. I haven't even unloaded the dishwasher. I'm not going to take care of those tomatoes or that tablescape right now. I'm going to finish my coffee. We're going to get ready, super casual. We're heading to the farmer's market today. I ordered 100 ears of corn from a local farmer that I get to go pick up today. The farmer's market that we're going to has a really nice park, so me and my son are going to package up and go. Josh said he didn't go to bed till like 1:30 last night because he was working on all those dishes. So he's going to stay here, and then he's going to start working on the chicken coop. You can see it feels like fall out today. I think the high is supposed to be like 72. Oh, it actually says 79. Right now it's 63 and cloudy and beautiful. I'm sitting out here having a cup of coffee, chatting with you, which is wonderful. It looks like the weather is supposed to get next week in the high 80s and 90s, which will be good because we'll be able to go to the pool a few more times before fall actually sets in. But not tomorrow. We're taking the weekend off. So the only work I'm going to do this weekend is go to the farmer's market, pick up that corn. I'm going to throw it in my refrigerator. And then I think on Monday, I'm going to need to pick a bunch of tomatoes too because I have so many tomatoes out there. I need to get those tomatoes. My sister wants some slicing tomatoes she asked for. Her and her husband have been craving BLTs. And so I said, when the tomatoes are ripe and ready to go, I'll drop some off at your house. So I'll probably do that on the way to the farmer's market for her today. And then we have a family weekend. We're just hanging out here really slow. And then Monday, it's going to be processing 100 ears of corn. And yeah, we got a lot of garden work that needs to be done. But we're going to have just a relaxing weekend, enjoying each other, enjoying this nice weather. And I'm just glad that we had this dinner party. It was perfect. It was a small group of people. We just sat out and chat. We never played the game, which is okay. I'm glad I have that game now, Herd Mentality. I can link that for you down below. We played that a ton in Montana. It's a great party game for a big group of people because you don't have to wait your turn. And it's just fun, and we enjoy playing games. We just didn't get it out last night, so that's okay. If you want the recipes, the ones that I can link, I will link down below for you. Thank you for being here. It was so fun. It was a lot of work. That was a very, very labor-intensive dinner party. I think it's probably one of the most labor-intensive ones. I'm not sure why. I just feel like everything had a lot of components, but I enjoy doing that. This is my hobby. Cooking for people and feeding people is something I enjoy doing. I enjoy trying new complicated recipes to like push my skills in the culinary world. And so I know that this type of cooking is not for everyone. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoy doing it. And it's just fun. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy feeding people. And yeah, so this is what I love to do. So thank you for being here. That allows me to be able to take the time to do this. Because you're here, I do get to spend time in the kitchen, an exorbitant amount of time in the kitchen, making these fun recipes and setting a beautiful tablescape. I just really enjoy it. So thank you for being here. If you want to watch more videos, I can pop them here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.